Hello, kitties. This is your Julie, the Crypt Keeper, and you're listening to Slasher Radio.
Welcome to Slasher Radio with the host Mikey Bones, Rob Humphrey, and no cast this week, Rob. Well, kinda.
Well, sort of.
Kinda, sorta. How are you, Robert?
I'm all right. And we are no Canada this week.
I'm still mad at you for that crap last week. Yeah, we are. That is kind of funny.
Yeah.
We are no Canada.
Yeah. Check out the Patreon to know what that's about.
Mm-hmm.
And I mentioned the Patreon just for John.
Yeah, John, as we get. Oh. I forgot about John. I'm glad you reminded me about John. All right. So we have Adam Green, an interview with Adam Green that we're going to be getting to you guys shortly. It's a long, the episode is the interview. Adam was very, very generous with his time. We had an awesome conversation that just kind of dragged on. And I think it was almost 2 hours. It was over an hour and a half, right?
It was, I don't know how much I don't know what kind of editing is going to be done to it or whatever, right. But we were on with him for about an hour and 50 minutes.
God damn.
Yeah. And I fully expected 10 minutes of his time.
No.
So,
Yeah, we went into it because Adam does. Also, for anybody who doesn't know, somehow, if you're listening to this and you're a horror fan, you should know who the hell Adam Green is. Hatchet franchise writer for all of them. He wrote the third one. Did not direct the third one, though, so he directed all of them except the third. He wrote all of them. That's his baby. That's his franchise. You're going to hear a bunch of stuff, the hell that Hatchet went through to even be something that we know about and we're able to see. Frozen, which is a really good movie. I think that came out in 2010, right, Rob?
That sounds about right. Yeah, I don't know the exact year, but we talk about that movie, too. Very good movie.
Very good. Yeah. We talk about a lot of different things. Horror in general. Adam is a horror fan, and it's always fun to be able to talk to horror fans. So many people that we talk to will ask their favorite horror movie, and it's like, oh, well, I don't really watch that, man. I don't know. But Adam Green, and you could tell just by his work. If you are familiar with Adam's movies, you don't need us to tell you he's a horror fan. You just know. But he was very generous with his time. We had a lot of time with him, so that's going to be the full episode. We have mailbag stuff. We'll get to that next week. We have two Patreon picks, I believe, coming up back to back, Rob.
Oh boy.
Yeah, that's always dangerous. So Rob mentioned the Patreon. That's patreon.com/Slasher Radio. If you do want to support the show, you can do so there. The Patreon picks are where the patrons once a month, even though we had Murder by Numbers last month, so sometimes we'll make up a Patreon pick if we have some scheduling things. So they pick one movie a month usually that we watch. We have no say-so in the matter as long as it's a horror movie. And the three of us have not covered it yet. We have to watch it.
Mm-hmm.
Now they have back-to-back. They missed out on a bit last time. Who knows what they're going to do this time?
Yeah, you never know what's going to happen, especially when they get back-to-back.
Yeah. Also, before we get into it, the interview is going to start with talking about Yorkiethon 9 that Adam is this is kind of like his passion thing.
Mm-hmm. It's part of his podcast, right? The Movie Crypt.
Well, yeah, he does have the Movie Crypt too. Everybody needs to go check that out. Every single week, Adam and Joe Lynch, they talk horror movies and pretty much everything and anything on the Movie Crypt podcast. So if you're listening to Slasher Radio, you should already be listening to the Movie Crypt. But he does have the Yorkiethon coming up July 25th to July 27th. It's in conjunction with SaveAYorkieRescue.org. It's a 3-day event.
Mm-hmm.
Damian Maffei, friend of the show, is confirmed that he is going to be on it. They get a lot of celebrities. They do reads of scripts, and Adam will tell you all about that. But we love horror and everything, and Adam uses a lot of different things to get the horror world into this Yorkiethon 9, but it's really about saving animals and saving dogs and getting them good homes, and it's very important to Adam, and it's very important to me. And hopefully there's a lot of pet lovers out there it's important to as well.
Yeah, and apparently it used to be one 48-hour long stream, and Adam explains to us why it's now broken up across 3 days.
He made the right move. That's a lot. That is a lot. But you can watch that at ariescope.com, ARIESCOPE SCOPE.com. I hope everybody does. Everybody go check that out. Even if you're there supporting and you share it, that's more than enough. It's a great cause and it's part of the horror world. You know, like that's the beauty of it too. Adam has made it part of the horror world, which is great. He ties it in. There's so much of the genre in it that it ties in and it's beautiful.
Yeah. And they do a table read of an unproduced script. And he doesn't say which one they're doing, but he does drop sort of a hint a little bit in the interview.
Big movie.
Yeah. So, I'm looking forward to checking this out. I think I've watched it once in the past, but I'm looking forward to checking it out this year. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, we'll be there, so we hope everybody else is there too. I don't know if they'll have like a live chat or something, but that would be cool.
Know. Yeah, I don't know.
If they have a live chat in there, you'll be able to see us in there and come hang out with us during Yorkiethon 9. But also just support
That's
everything.
The real reason you want to be there, to hang out with us, not Adam Green and Joe Lynch or any of their celebrity guests. It's to see me and Mikey in the chat.
Absolutely not. But it's not like if you know someone's going to be in there and you can it's kind of like going to a party, man. Like, you know that your friends are going to be there or a couple of people it's easier for you to go.
Right. No, I know what you mean. I know. It was just funny the way he kind of said it. I was like,
it's very true. So we're going to kick you over to that. Without further ado, the great Adam Green. I hope everybody enjoys. Hell of a deal. We appreciate you giving us some of your time today. I hope you're staying cool in all this crap weather we've been getting.
Yeah, it's not that bad yet in LA, but it's coming.
Dude, I'm in New York. It is 100 degrees today, which is insane.
Yeah, I've heard. That's awful.
Oh, it's terrible.
It's a toasty one.
Yeah, I hope it's not signs for the future of the summer. But anyway, again, thank you very much for joining us. I would like to start, finish, and whenever else you feel like talking about it, I want to start with the Yorkiethon 9. This is, I'm a huge, like everybody who listens to our show knows how much of a pet guy I am, especially dogs. I love this. I've always admired this about you. Can you tell us a little bit about it? It's going through July 25th and through July 27th, correct?
Yes. So Joe Lynch and I have done our podcast, The Movie Crypt, every Monday for over 12 years now. We've never missed a week. Even if Monday falls on Christmas Day, there's always a new episode.
That's impressive.
Is really hard when you have two working filmmakers, and like there's been times where both of us were off for months like filming, so we have to make sure we bank enough episodes and set them all up to release. But 9 years ago we decided, at that point I think we were like in the top 20 on iTunes every day of the week for like 3 years. And it's like, we got to use this platform for good. So like, what should we do? And both of us have always adopted or rescued every pet we've ever had. And Arwen, who's my Yorkie, who you guys are looking at right now on your screen.
What a cutie.
Adorable.
Yeah.
Absolutely adorable.
She was adopted out of a bad situation when she was just like 5 weeks old. And I always grew up with big dogs. Like my family had a Rottweiler, a Doberman. I had never understood little dogs. I'm like, just get a cat. And when we first brought her home, I was like, I'm going to find a good home for this tiny little dog.
Cat.
And then like within 3 days, I'm like, this dog is my whole life. I love this dog so much. But I didn't know when that happened that like just about 2 years later, I was going to go through like the worst shit that I've ever gone through. And that dog saved me. Like that dog was everything and got me through it. And I was at Monster Mania in New Jersey, and there was this group called Save a Yorkie Rescue that was trying to raise money to help dogs. And I was just, me being me, I'm like, how do I help you? And so Joe and I talked, and we're like, we knew we wanted to do something for animals. And since Arwen is the face of our podcast, it was like, well, this should be it. So we used to do it for the first 5 years, I think, or 6 years. It was a 48-hour marathon.
Yeah.
So we would stay on the air live for 48 hours, guests coming every 30 minutes or every hour, around the clock through the night. And at this point, this is going to be year 9. We've raised just about $300,000 and saved a ton of dogs. So it's really fun though, because it's like live film commentaries and comedy, and usually there's live music and obviously lots of great conversations with people. And every year the centerpiece event is always a live script reading of something that the average person never got to see. So like, I think it was last year we did one of the other versions of Freddy versus Jason that was written. I think it was, I might be wrong here. I think it was David Scow's version of it. We once did the first draft of Goonies, which was so different. So it was, I think it would have been R-rated because they were like drinking, and there's a scene in there where, you know, the scene in the Goonies when they're in the well and the whole thing with Troy's bucket and Sean Astin yeah. So originally in the script, there were leeches all over them, and Data, who was Data starts shocking the water to get rid of the leeches, and the two girls start having orgasms from it. And like, you can totally see why it got changed.
What?
But
Jeez,
yeah.
that's crazy.
The next year we read Chris Columbus's first draft of Gremlins, which was much scarier. And at the end, Gizmo turns into a butterfly. So also Back to the Future, which we had to edit because there were so many racist words in it, like,
oh my God,
like the worst ones you can say.
Oh, jeez.
So anyway, at this point, because I'm not like, we know what we're doing this year, our poster is going to be based around it. And even though we've gotten the go ahead, until the script is in our hands, we never want to say what it is. So any day now it's going to arrive and we can say it, but it's a very popular horror franchise. It's a script that was written for an entry that never got made. And I think it's going to really blow people away. But that's always usually on like the Saturday night of Yorkiethon. Sorry, I should go back. We did it the first 6 years. It was 48 hours live. And then we got old. Like, I wish there was a better excuse, but because the problem is, it's not the 48 hours live. It's the weeks leading up to it of no sleep, getting it all produced and together.
Yeah.
And like, there's an auction, and all the items that our friends give us to auction off, no matter when we ask them to deliver the items by, they don't do it till like that week. So this year has been great. Like, there's already, I think, 80 items listed, and there's probably another like 40 or 50 coming. And we get really good stuff. Like, one year Slash gave us his top hat, and that went for like $8,000, I think. But like, screen used wardrobe and all kinds of awesome stuff. So after year 6, I went home, I started my shower, and then woke up on the floor. I'd fallen through my nightstand. God. I wasn't that hurt at all. But if that had happened 2 minutes later, and I was living alone at the time, like, and I was in the shower. So I texted Joe. I'm like, holy shit, I just fainted. And I didn't get a response from him. And I'm like, oh, he must just be asleep already. But he had also fainted walking into his house. He fainted in the parking lot and cracked his head and had to go to the emergency room, where they had to keep him awake for a further, I think, 8 hours. So we were like, all right, no more 48 hours. So now it's more like 48 hours of awesomeness condensed into 24 hours. So we do like a few hours on Friday night, 10 hours on Saturday, 10 on Sunday. So yeah, July 25th through 27th, it's free to watch on ariescope.com. Sometimes we also simulcast to YouTube, but the problem with YouTube is then, like, a musician comes on and starts playing a song, and YouTube suddenly kills the stream, or if somebody wants to show a clip from a movie they're working on or something. So we might be on YouTube, but ariescope.com, it's free to watch. And then hopefully as people are watching, they'll hit the donate button and give a few dollars to save a Yorkie rescue or buy something in Arwen's silent auction, which is there's also always a link right under the stream for that too.
Yes. And everybody who's listening to this right now, everywhere that this is posted, the links will be there. I will definitely be there. I know all the horror nerds are like, I want to hear about the blood and guts. If I get a chance to talk about a dog, I'm going to do it. Like you guys, I honestly, this is kind of cool for us in multiple ways because, as you know, in podcasting with the Movie Crypt, sometimes you talk to people that you don't necessarily, you wouldn't choose, to talk to, and it's a project coming up or whatever the case may be. We've been huge fans of your work for a long time, so it's exciting to us to talk to people where it's like, holy shit, yes. Like I would love, but this event that you guys are doing is incredible. And saveayorkierescue.org, like all that stuff will be in there. And I'll even communicate with Kelly to make sure we get all the links if you guys do go on YouTube, so no one will have an excuse to not find it, which is an awesome thing.
Thank you.
Thank you for doing it. It's awesome. My dog also is a rescue, and I put like horror movies. I'll watch people die all day. I think you're just not human if you don't have a soft spot for pets.
Same. Like there's just got to be something wrong with you. And look, my mother was the same way, but like stray animals, wounded wild animals, they literally just come to the door of this office. It's like they know I'm going to take care of. There was a point last summer, I had 14 rabbits I was taking care of outside.
Oh my God.
Oh, wow.
A squirrel that he didn't live in the office, but he spent most of his time in the office. There was a baby possum that I had found and taken care of, and then he would come by every night. But there's always something. Currently, there's 2 stray cats that showed up here, and they're both sleeping in the office couch right now. So there's I don't know. I just think loving animals is a great way to stay sane in the world we're living in, because they don't do anything wrong and they don't take sides and they don't care, and it's great. So
100%.
Who would have thought the guy who made Hatchet lives in a Disney movie in real life?
dude, you don't know how funny it was when I first started doing conventions after the first Hatchet came out. How many fans were disappointed when they would meet me because they expected like a Rob Zombie kind of looking guy. And I'm sitting there with my little dog and my Yankee candles, and they're like, "You're him?" And like, I'm like, "Yeah, sorry,
A long table."
Just chatting with birds and
Yeah, they call me Snow White.
yeah.
But I think though, most people in the horror genre, I'm sure you guys have talked to many. They're like the nicest people you would meet in the comedy world, which was where I started originally. Fucking miserable people, miserable. But then you get into horror, and everyone's like a family person, and they're so nice, and usually most of them have their causes that they like. It's just such a great culture to be part of.
Yeah, you always get that stigma of like the miserable stand-up comedian who's just like smoked 2 packs of cigarettes in the green room.
It's so real. It's so real. Funny people, but something's wrong.
Well, that kind of leads me to one of the questions that I have for you is you did come from a comedy background, and obviously with all your iconic films, you transitioned into horror. There's something to be said, and it's like a old, I don't know, old wives' tale or whatever you call them, that the horror and the darkness that comes from comedy, and they lend to each other so much. Where along the road did you decide to shift into horror?
Well, I was always a horror fan, and I always wanted to make horror movies. Like my toy collection, it's all horror. Like, well, no, there's some Star Wars stuff too, but it's mainly horror stuff. And that was just always what I was into. And I think it goes all the way back to just being a kid and loving Halloween so much. And then once I discovered horror movies, I realized I could kind of live Halloween year round. But then comedy just sort of, I think probably because when I started making shorts and like the very first feature I made, comedy was something you could do with no money. Like if it was funny, it was funny. It didn't matter necessarily about budget, but I always knew I wanted to make horror movies, and specifically Hatchet, which had been called Victor Crowley my whole life. Even the first draft of it was called Victor Crowley, and then the name got changed to Hatchet somewhere along the way. But I started doing stand-up when I first got to LA. I was 25, and I had sold some TV shows that were comedies, but nothing was actually getting made. And then when I wrote Hatchet, and to me, it is a comedy. It's really violent, but it's just sort of everything that I like. And you also got to remember, like, it was written in 2004 or 2003 was the first draft when that went around. And at the time, the genre was mainly remakes, American remakes of J-horror movies, and then like torture porn was really big. And look, like, I love all of it, and I'm happy all of it exists, but there was like slashers were just sort of dead. And it was like, fuck, like, why is no one doing this anymore? And I really miss the kind of unstoppable killer, something more supernatural and more like a monster. But I wanted to do it my way. And it was when the movie first came out, like, wide, where like the public could all see it and not just festivals, there was always people being like, oh, it's Friday the 13th. I guess because Kane Hodder's in it and there's trees. But like the two movies that directly inspired it were American Werewolf in London and Fright Night. Because with those movies, they took, American Werewolf took the werewolf, but put it in a movie with really fun, funny characters. Like the first 30 minutes of American Werewolf, I think, are hilarious. And then Fright Night was like a kind of comedic tale on a vampire story where it just wasn't the usual thing. And so I'm like, how would I do a slasher movie in my voice where it's funny characters that are going through this situation? Like, you got to try to keep the comedy out of the more horrific moments, because once your killer becomes a joke, then sadly, I felt like that's what happened with Nightmare on Elm Street. Eventually, it was all about the one-liners. I still would fucking die for those movies. They're fucking great. But anyway, so when the script went around, even my own agent was like, you got to pick a lane, like take the comedy out or take the graphic violence out. But this is this is who's going to watch this. And I'm like, I think you're wrong. I think you're wrong. And then, the rest sort of went from there. But yeah, I always wanted to be making horror movies. I feel like I get to do all of it and the type of stuff that I usually do. Like something like Frozen or Spiral, like there's no jokes in those. They're not really fun. But I don't know. I think if you just do one thing over and over again for your entire career, eventually it's got to get boring.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. We just rewatched all the Hatchet movies, a couple of weeks ago.
Mhm.
And that is one thing that I had kind of forgotten about it. Hatchet, especially the first one, is very funny.
Yeah, the first one, the second, well, it's weird because like the first three movies are intended to be one film. So they're even broken up into like a first act, second act, and third act. So the third one's more like the explosive action finale, because that was supposed to be it, was those three. They start and stop right where the other one ended. And then the fourth one, which I never knew I was going to do until George Romero convinced me I should do it. And that one takes place 10 years after the events of the first three, mainly because I was always wondering, when we see these movies and somebody survives, I've always wondered, does anyone believe them
Right.
afterwards? And so I don't remember the exact body count, but I think it's like 50 something people maybe that die in the first three Hatchet movies. And Perry Shen's character, Andrew Young, is the only one that they find and rescue. And I'm like, there's no way he didn't get blamed for this. Like, he's a paramedic. And that was sort of what got me into bringing him back. And also when I could change the rules a little bit and bring Victor Crowley back in a different way, so that way I could eventually get him out of the swamp. So that was sort of it. But then it was also the attraction of no one knew we were making it, and it was a total secret. And then to surprise everybody with it, which how that worked, I have no idea how we pulled that off.
I don't either.
It's funny though, because the plan was Well, the 10th anniversary of Hatchet is coming up. It was 2017 because the first one hit theaters September 2007, which is also weird because IMDb always lists the year that something first played, like in a festival, but the movie didn't come out until September 2007. And it was so censored because the MPAA cut it to shreds, which is also sad because those are the versions that are streaming in most cases. Like it doesn't, like how many people see Victor Crowley and don't see the dick or the tits or like they just, because they're watching it wherever it's free. But it was like, all right, what if we surprise that audience with a new movie that they didn't know was coming, and how we pulled that off. But that night, Entertainment Weekly knew that there was a new Hatchet movie and a whole tour about to start, but they were told to hold the announcement till 8:30, I believe, or 7:30. And the publicist was like, all right, when you go introduce the movie, right after you finish introducing it, they're going to post all about this. And I get up in front of the audience and I never really have something planned. I'm like, I know how to do this at this point, but I just kept going and going. And I'm, it's probably on YouTube somewhere, but I just started getting so honest about what the last couple of years had been like and wanting to like end everything. And I did not see it going there. But then out of the corner of my eye, I see the publicist going, hurry the fuck up. Like, just like, go, go, go. Because they were about to announce it. And like, what if the audience, because everyone has their phones out, like, what if they all started getting notifications before I could even say it?
Oh, jeez.
And so I said it, the movie started, and then the release went out. But like, to that crowd especially, because there were people who waited hours outside for a retro screening, and the entire cast of not just the original, but Hatchet 2 and 3, all of them came, and they all knew
that's awesome
that we weren't really watching Hatchet 1, especially the fact that the entire original cast showed up and did the carpet as if it was their event, knowing it wasn't, was just it was just, I don't know, it was an amazing thing to pull off. And that tour was one of the best times I've ever had. I think it was like 50 nights that I did. But the final night of the tour, it just worked out where it was Halloween night in New Orleans. And so after, there were 2 shows, I think. And then after the second one, Kane and I took 50 fans on a haunted swamp tour, like out in the swamp. And we didn't know that there were no lights on the boat until we got there, but because they don't do nighttime haunted swamp tours. And I think there was like 12 maybe fans that had just happened to bring jack-o'-lanterns. And so the whole thing was lit by jack-o'-lantern, and Kane and I are just telling stories about making the movie. And it was like, part of me is like, we need to do this again, but I don't know if it'll ever be that magical.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's really cool.
You mentioned the first 3 are all sort of the same story, and they are. And then the fourth one was sort of something different. Is that why it's not called Hatchet 4? It's called Victor Crowley?
You know, that's a really good question, because in every other country, it's called Hatchet 4. And I think I've seen American releases that say Victor Crowley and then Hatchet 4 under it. I think that the thinking at the distributor at the time was that people are less likely to watch something with a high number next to it if they haven't already seen all the other ones. And so they thought like calling it Victor Crowley would be better. Now, in hindsight, I wish I had never done that, only because now I could easily just make movies. I could easily make more Hatchet movies different places by changing the title. You know, like Friday the 13th had to do that at a certain point. But the same place has Hatchet 2, 3, and now Victor Crowley. So that's a whole other story. But in the moment, I was kind of like for it, only because I'm like, well, this is we're starting a different storyline now. Because the first 3 were one movie. And so let's start something else. And at the time when I did 4, I wasn't even like, oh, we definitely have to keep going after this. I just always like to leave the door open and know what I think I would do next. Because even in Hatchet 1, we show some of the weapons he's going to use in 2, which, like, how I didn't wind up completely heartbroken, because I had told Kane, I had told Tony Todd, I'm like, because when Tony Todd did the first one, he has a very small part. But I was like, but you're like the lead of the second one. And he's just laughing, like, oh, the second one, really? You're that confident. And I don't know where. You just, at a certain point, you kind of have to will things to happen and just believe and try to be positive. And it did not look like there was going to be more Hatchets, because when we first premiered at Tribeca, the print was all fucked up. Like, it looked like the colors were all pastel. The framing was wrong. It still did well. The reviews were great. The audience response was good, but it didn't look anything like it was supposed to. And that was all because one of the producers is like, I got a friend with a DI place and they're going to, like, they scratched our negatives. It was a whole thing, but nobody wanted it. Like, there were no offers. And then it was 18 months of going all over the world with that thing. And then by the end of those 18 months, when you've done all these festivals and won awards and had all these reviews, then we were able to get distributors to give it a second look. And then at the time, I think it was the Weinstein Company and Anchor Bay who had made offers for theatrical. And Anchor Bay hadn't done theatrical before. And so I would always rather be with the underdog and the place that needs it, as opposed to a place that could easily just toss it on to. Back then it was different too. If your movie didn't play in theaters, it's like there was something wrong with it. Like, oh, it's straight to video. Now some of the best shit goes straight to streaming.
I still have that hang up in the back of my mind just from when I grew up, where if I hear something straight to streaming, I'm like, oh, it's probably not that good. Which in reality, like you said, a lot of the best stuff it goes straight to streaming now, but it's still in the back of my mind, just a hang up.
Especially because, like, the rules have kind of changed in the last 3 years, but the MPAA used to be so all powerful when it came to theaters. And I don't know if you guys have ever seen, there's a documentary that Kirby Dick did called This Film Has Not Yet Been Rated.
Yes, I have seen that.
And those were the exact people that I had to face off with on Hatchet 1, because I was shocked that they kept giving it an NC-17. And stupidly, I was like, I'm going to fight this. And everyone around me is like, don't fight it. You're not going to win. Don't do it. And I'm like, nope, I'm doing it. And I went and basically had like a trial, because what they do is it's got to be top secret where they hold these screenings, but it's Dolby and Burbank, just so everyone knows. But even like when you turn a DVD of the movie in to show them, they won't show their faces. It's literally, it was a mail slot with eyes that took it. And then they kept coming back with an NC-17, and I'd cut stuff, and like everyone knows the tricks. You just keep removing frames and resubmitting, and eventually you wear them down. But for some reason, they had such a hard on against it. And I think it was because it was a completely independent movie that was going to be put in theaters by a company that wasn't, up until that point, part of that space. And again, if you watch the documentary, most of the MPAA was on Sony's payroll, but like, I knew all this, but I'm like, I have a really good case to make here. And so they're supposed to show the movie to 12 industry professionals, not to rate it, but just to judge, was this treated fairly for a rating? And by industry professionals, they claim it's theater owners and operators, studio executives, other filmmakers. They walked in 12 senior citizens that they must have picked up at a home. There was a dude in a walker. And
oh God.
They went out to the retirement home out there.
Yes. And again, everyone warned me, everybody, but I'm like, no, I'm going to do this, because it's like this movie that I never even thought would happen. I'm like, everyone who wants to do this, your chances are so, like, I was just like, there's no way it's going to end here because of these people. I'm going to go, they're going to see me, they're going to see what I'm about, they're going to understand. And they the woman who stood up at the beginning says the movie you're about to watch is called Hatchet, and they literally went ugh.
Oh God.
And I'd also been warned don't sit in the screening, but I did, and I had seen this thing all over the world in so many different countries. And while every joke is not always going to land with every audience, there were certain jokes where even subtitled, the audience would laugh and or clap or something. And it was just silence. And at one point, there was a joke that went by, and I'm like, they're definitely going to laugh at this. And they didn't. And I actually, from the back of the theater, went, come on. Like, I was so mad. And then afterwards,
awesome.
I get 15 minutes to speak. And Joan Graves, who was the head of the MPAA at the time, I don't think she's still there. I hope not. Gets a rebuttal. Or no, she gets 15 minutes, and then I get a rebuttal, and she gets a rebuttal. And the case that I tried to make to them, I was like, listen, I know this might not be your cup of tea, but when I grew up on this stuff, this is what it was like. It was fantasy. There's nothing mean-spirited in this film. Yes, it's violent and graphic, but there's not a single thing that you just watched that could really happen. It's so unrealistic. You can't rip somebody's head in half like this. I'm like, furthermore, there's no sex in this movie. There's no drugs. No one even smokes a cigarette. And there's not even much swearing. Like, in a time where everything is torture porn and so mean, don't we need this again? It's fake. It's fantasy. It's a ghost chasing around a bunch of comedians with a gas-powered belt sander, which, by the way, doesn't exist in real life. And I'm like, I've got this. And then Joan Graves speaks and just eviscerates me. And you're back again in 2007, you were allowed to cite other films. So I was like, just speaking of films that have come out recently, there was the Hills Have Eyes remake, which I love. I'm like, but there's a scene in that movie where they rape a woman and then run off into the night with the baby that they're going to eat. They suck on the woman's breast till she lactates into the monster's mouth, then bite the head off the family parakeet, drink the blood. And meanwhile, dad is outside crucified on fire and no one's laughing. I'm like, and that got an R. And then I go through Hostel, the Saw movies, all of it. And then Joan Graves says, has anyone in here seen those films? And they all shake their head no. And she looks at the other woman and says, those are stricken from the record. And I knew right there, I'm like, oh, this is what everyone meant. They even banned the poster, the black poster with the hatchet blade on it. I think they're using that same poster for Silent Night, Deadly Night, the remake, although they put Christmas lights around the hatchet or something. But they said that was pornographic. And we went through 20 different posters and then eventually just resubmitted that one and made the blood not red. And they were like, okay. So it was just, but then that opening night at going to the ArcLight here in Hollywood, it should have been the greatest moment of my life to walk up to the ticket counter and buy a ticket. And then I watched the movie and like nothing was in it. And it just like they censored the shit out of it. It was rough, definitely rough.
Well, kudos to you for having the balls, man, honestly, because, you know, I mean, we've seen it. There's been a lot of different cases, even most recently, the fight's still being fought by the folks at Terrifier and all that stuff. But
they won. They
did.
And I'm so fucking proud of them. And just, like, it was only a matter of time somebody would break through. And we were just like with Hatchet 2, that was put in theaters unrated. And I was like, this is my comeuppance. Because again, I thought we would forego theaters. So I went as far as I wanted to go. And there was even a shot in that where Victor Crowley puts this 6-foot chainsaw through two dudes at the same time. And we added balls coming down over the blade just to give the MPAA something to say we had to take out. Like, I actually didn't.
That's awesome.
I didn't want that in there. And
why not?
Well, yeah. And then they make a cameo in 3, but those balls.
Balls get a cameo. I love it.
But then, like, all of a sudden, Dark Sky was like, we have great news. AMC is starting a new program called AMC Independent. And there's somebody there high up the chain who's a big Hatchet fan. And they agreed to put the movie out unrated in major multiplexes. I think it was going to be on like 80 screens, but like, you know, shopping malls and like big movie theaters, not smaller indie ones.
Right. I remember that. I remember thinking that that was a big deal at the time. Like, this movie's going unrated to theaters. That's amazing.
Yeah. And the trailer, the poster, like that was their marketing angle, was like gore like you haven't seen. Now, like I think the last movie to do that was Dawn of the Dead 25 years earlier. And I was just like, I can't believe this is happening. Of course it didn't, but every interview that the cast and I would do, because like, I mean, Kane and Danielle and Tony especially, they did so much press, and that was the angle, was this is unrated. And we were even going as far as being like, look, even if Hatchet's not like your favorite thing, if you just buy a matinee ticket to go to this, it's going to change everything. Then no one's going to have to keep censoring their movies. Like if this can break through. And then about 3 days before opening night, I got a call from the publicist from Dark Sky, and who I adore. And she's like, okay, no more talking about the rating. Don't say anything about it. Any press that you guys do, just we'll jump on the call and say, you know, next question, don't ask about that. But meanwhile, the trailer that was already in theaters being like unrated, like buckets of blood. And I'm like, what happened? And they're like, just AMC starting to get cold feet on this. And I guess the MPAA might have been pressuring them. Like, what are you doing? And so when you do interviews for a release like that, oftentimes the outlet will bank them a month in advance. So we had already done a bunch that weren't going to be released yet. And Entertainment Weekly puts out a interview with me. The title was Adam Green Says the MPAA is Evil. You can probably still find it online. And it's a photo of me with duct tape over my mouth and a Hatchet Army shirt.
Nice.
Oh, Lord.
And the movie got yanked from all screens within, I think it was either 24 or 36 hours. And we didn't know. So I think back then it was still MySpace, if I'm correct. MySpace was still a thing in 2010. And I'm hearing from people being like, I just went to the theater. It's not here anymore. I'm like, what do you mean it's not there? And it was gone, just disappeared. And the MPAA never said anything, and AMC wouldn't give an actual reason. There was a guy who worked there who tried to say, oh, it just wasn't performing. Really? Like, I was at the first show, the midnight show here in LA. Kane was at one, I think maybe in Florida or something, or Danielle was at one, and Tony was at one, and R.A. Mihailov was at one. They were all sold out. So right there, the movie had already made money, even if nobody went the rest of the weekend. And it was doing fine. And meanwhile, another horror movie opened that same weekend called Chain Letter. I don't know if people remember it.
Oh, I do.
But it made $32 per screen. And that stayed in theaters for 2 weeks. But we got yanked. And anyway, it was devastating. And I couldn't say shit because my lawyers were like, you're going to make other films. You can't keep fighting with the MPAA, or studios won't hire you anymore. Like, just everyone knows what happened here. Let people online make the case. Just stay quiet. And that fucking sucked. Like, that was horrible, horrible. But now Terrifier 2 comes out, and tail end of the pandemic, there's not a lot of stuff in theaters. They were so smart about it. Just show it twice a night. Every show would be sold out. And it just kept going and going. And I don't know if you know those guys at all, but they're such nice people, and they worked so hard to get here. And now to see it blow up and become this huge thing is just fucking great.
Yeah, we've had a couple of people from the Terrifier crew, David Howard Thornton. We actually just recently, I think, I forget how long ago, had him on again. They love the genre, and they're fighting for other films. And I've said several times that movies, franchises like Hatchet, and there are a couple others, laid that groundwork. This has been a rock that's been chiseled at for quite some time, and Terrifier broke through. But yeah, man, like, you guys had a place in that battle for sure, and kudos to you for having the balls to do that.
Well, I think, like anything, it's timing. Like, it's like, it's not, it can't all be luck or timing, obviously. And I don't like when people try to say that about Terrifier, because like, first Art the Clown was in All Hallows Eve, and which I don't know if people really saw. And then Terrifier 1 came out. I only knew about it because I was friends with somebody who worked at that distributor who wanted me to see the scene with the girl upside down with the
long
saw.
ways is what we call it. Yeah.
But I was immediately like, I gotta meet these guys. Like, these are gonna be my best friends. I love this. But nobody really was talking about it. But they kept going. And then a few years later, there's Terrifier 2, and they didn't give up. And then now look, it's fucking great, dude. It's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, there's still, even when Terrifier 2 blew up, people were throwing money at them left and right to buy it and take control of it. But they would have to censor this, or they would have to send. They said, no, we're going to do what we want to do. And there's something to be said for that. And it paid off. Terrifier 3 did, even if people don't like the movie, it did great, which is great for not only them, but for all movies in the horror genre.
Yeah, it's good for everybody. And I'm always trying to stress that on our podcast. Like, even if it's not your cup of tea, if something catches on and connects, it's good for everybody. Like, look at how many horror movies are coming out now. It's such a great time to be a horror fan. Even if you don't necessarily love all of it, then there's going to be something else right behind it. Maybe that will be for you. But I'm just like, I'm a big cheerleader for the genre, and I love everyone in it. And it's just always great to see somebody win, because it doesn't happen often in this business. Yeah. So when it does, you got to really celebrate it.
Yeah, and we have that in I don't want to call it an internal battle, but kind of on the show where, like, I'm not a huge fan of the Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey movies, and things like that. But I can acknowledge, the fact that they're able to get into theaters is a huge thing. And huge. Like, I'll never take that from them. The movies aren't, like you were saying, the movies aren't for me, but what they're doing is huge.
Yes. Agreed. Absolutely agreed.
Yeah. Speaking of doing big things, though, kind of to arc back to Hatchet 1 a little bit, at the time of Hatchet 1's release, you hadn't, the cast that you were able to put together for that. And this always goes to show, like, Hatchet was made by a horror fan. Like, there's no question whatsoever. And even down to the cast, how you were able to pull off, because at that time you had only done Coffee and Donuts as a full-length director,
which no one could see, because that Coffee and Donuts, I had a job making cable commercials right out of college in Boston. Like, when you're watching like ESPN or MTV late at night, and there's that local commercial that comes on that's fucking terrible, and there's always like an entire family standing in front of a business waving at the end. Like, that's what I was doing.
Those are some of my favorite things on earth. They're so great.
I could show you some of the fucking most hilariously bad. And the thing is, though, that's how those businesses want them. Like, you go in to every client trying to be like, we're going to make you, what commercials do you remember? And like, we want to give you a national ad. And they're like, oh, that would be great. But you got to show my fucking storefront and my kids and my daughter's hamster's got to be in. And then they would literally say to us, like, I've been making pizzas for 40 years. I'm going to tell you how to make a commercial. Like, okay, all right.
Yeah.
But I think they just want to see themselves on TV because they're paying for it. But regardless, I had access to equipment, which in 1997, really 1996, because I had started there as an intern when I was still in school. But when I graduated in 97, I was lucky enough to get a job there. But back then, a nice camera and like the 3 airy lights that we had, that would have been so expensive to buy or to rent. And I realized I can just take this stuff at night and I'll go make my stuff. And then as long as I have it back before anyone gets here in the morning. And my boss, like, he knew, he's not stupid, but he was so cool because he would just sort of look the other way until it became a problem, because I was literally taking the stuff every single night to shoot Coffee and Donuts. And we didn't know Will Barrett, who's been my DP for 30 years now. We didn't know what we were doing. And as much as we're proud of the movie, it's filled with copyright infringements, the music, the t-shirt logos, and it was shot on a Betacam SP and edited tape to tape. So it's not like you can go in and change it now. And it worked because it was the calling card that got my career started. And we played 1 film festival and 1 Best Picture. and then it ended up becoming Holliston, the TV series. But no one has really seen it. We showed it on a Yorkiethon once at like 4 a.m. We just randomly played the whole movie, and there was a screening of Frozen at the New Beverly here in LA where I surprised everyone by showing it. But we got to be really careful with it because we could get sued. I mean, I'm literally like singing an Aerosmith song in it. We could never afford that. Never. But sorry, I totally cut you off when you mentioned coffee.
You're good. You're good. But that goes to the point even more that, now you're in the director's chair for another feature, and it's Hatchet, and you pull Robert Englund, Kane Hodder, Tony Todd. How were you able to get that cast together, and how important to you was it to have that, to showcase that in this kind of like a love letter to slasher films in the 2000s?
That wasn't, I never even thought that would be possible when we first started casting it. But Sarah Elbert, who has produced all the Hatchet films and Holliston, she had a job making the special features for this company that did BTS stuff for films. And she had just done, do you remember there was like a Friday the 13th box set in like 2004 or 5? And it was just the first 8 movies, but it was all like different artwork. And the DVDs were like 2 to a case. And like, it really wasn't very good. And I owned that one. Yeah. I mean, how many times did Anchor Bay put out Evil Dead? And I bought every fucking edition. Like,
honestly,
like a trailer with 2 extra seconds. I gotta have it. And Sarah had produced the special features for that. And so when the script for Hatchet had gone around, or sorry, it was still called Victor Crowley then, and everyone had passed, it was getting me a lot of work. Like Lionsgate had hired me at the time to write Cabin Fever 2, which mine is not the version that Ty West ended up doing. That's a whole other thing, and a bullet dodged. But anyway, I was getting work writing stuff, but everyone was like, we like your writing, but no one's going to make this because slashers are dead. And it's too funny. Like, you got to get rid of the humor. And so Sarah was like, I just interviewed all the people who made the Friday the 13th movies and heard all their stories. And why don't we just make it? And I'm like, how are we going to do that? We would need money. We don't know anybody with money. It's never going to work. But we made a mock trailer, and all it was a little girl telling the story of Victor Crowley in 90 seconds. And we went down to New Orleans and we took a alligator tour, and Will hung off the side, just getting a shot, like slowly moving over the swamp. And we put that together and we put it online, and then it just kept going. And there was like websites claiming they had already seen the movie, and it was either the best thing ever or the worst movie ever. Like we didn't even have money yet to make the thing. And, but we had something to show, and Will and I had already made a movie, and I was being hired by studios to write stuff. So I think that helped when we eventually met producers who were like money finding people. And at the time, the model was you make a horror movie for 1.5 million or less. And then if you can somehow get released by Lionsgate, because they were the kings back then, then, you could do this. And so they were able to find an investor who was willing to give us the money. And what was so funny was before we were given the $1.5 million, I thought I could make Jurassic Park with $1.5 million. And then they give it to you and you're like, holy shit, we don't have enough money to do this. How are we fucking going to do this? But John, one of the people Sarah had interviewed for the Friday the 13th thing was John Buechler, who of course directed Part 7. He also did Troll and Cellar Dweller, and great makeup effects artist who had worked on all the franchises. And she's like, I could call him, just ask if he would talk to you. This was before we knew we were making the movie. And John was so kind. And I went to his shop and I walk in and there's Freddy with the chest of souls and the Part 7 Jason, which I still think is the best looking one. And there's a Michael Myers. And I'm just like, I can't believe I'm here. And he's like, well, the script is really good. He's like, it's funny though. It's very funny. I'm like, yeah, I know, but I kind of like that. He's like, no, I did too. He's like, it's a new way of doing this. And he was like, who was going to play Victor Crowley? I'm like, I don't know. We would audition people. He's like, what about Kane Hodder? And I was just like, shut the fuck up. Like, why would he do it? But it's like timing, because John was like, well, I'm leaving here in 10 minutes to go out to the set of Devil's Rejects because something he had to do out there. I don't know if John actually worked on that movie, but Kane was stunt coordinating. And so he's like, I could show it to him. And I'm like, sure. And I figured that would be the end of it. But just the way fate worked, Kane had just unceremoniously been replaced as Jason for Freddy versus Jason. He had just turned 50 at the time. His mother had just passed away. Like, he was sort of at his own crossroads thinking like, well, maybe that was my ride. And then I show up with this new character, and this was something he could play from the ground up and not be the sixth guy to play the part. And he said yes. And I think between John saying he would do effects and Kane saying he would play Victor if we actually did it, I think that helped. And then with Tony Todd, John made some really bad movies later in his life. And I would say this if he was still here and sitting right next to me, he knows. But he just liked to make stuff. And he did this movie called, oh my God, if you can ever find this, it's one of the worst things you've ever seen. It's called Eden Formula. It was called Total Rex in other countries, but in America, it was released as Eden Formula. And he basically, because he had the Carnosaur from the Roger Corman movie, he's like, well, just use this and it'll run through the city and eat people. And then he's like, you're an actor, you should be in this. And I'm two different characters in that movie. I have a whole scene as a director, and this was how John was making movies towards the end. And then I was supposed to just be a dead security guard lying by this other character's feet who happened to be Tony Todd. And Tony's just the nicest guy. He's like, oh, so what do you do? And I'm like, oh, I'm actually about to make this slasher movie, and Kane Hodder is going to be in it, and you should be in it. And then he read it and he wanted a bigger part. But I was like, you got to trust me on this, man. Reverend Zombie's the lead of the second one. This is all a big, thing. And he said yes. And then Robert Englund, at that point, I think we just got ballsy, where we thought, because we had the other ones, fuck it, let's try. And I think if it wasn't Robert, I was going to try to go to Sid. And Sid wound up being in the third one. But it was amazing how it worked out. And we weren't the first, because Wishmaster, which had come out like 10 years earlier, all three of them, they were just cameos, but they were all three featured in that. And then we just started auditioning for all the other parts. And there's a whole thing with this too, because it was almost Danielle Harris in the first one, because she came in and I already knew her from just all the movies she had done and stuff. But I really wanted an unknown as Marybeth, because we were starting to have so many horror people in it. And I was worried, because it was funny, like, because you don't have control over the trailer. And if the trailer for Hatchet had jokes and stuff in it, it would have looked like it's a parody. And so we went with an unknown named Tamara Feldman. And then everything happened with the movie, which was fantastic. But then her agent just got like, he just thought she was Meryl Streep after that. And like, she was just going to be the biggest thing ever. And when we got to the sequel, and most of the same crew came back, like even for each movie, the cast of the film before it, always at some point, they all come to set just to wish the new cast luck. Like, it's such a family thing. And the agent told her, don't talk to Adam. I'm going to get you $1 million. Now, the budget of Hatchet 2 was $800,000. And he wanted $1 million for her. And it's just, it was not going to happen. And I tried calling her to be like, I know the game this guy's playing. You got, like, just tell him to stop. And then finally got to the point, I'm like, you're going to lose this part. But it was hard, because you're like, what do we do? Like, it was planned to be 3 movies. The Marybeth character is so important. Do I scrap everything now and change it because the girl who was in the first one that nobody knows, her agent is being completely ridiculous? And so I'm like, if I'm going to replace her, I gotta do something that most fans would be excited about and get like the biggest scream queen of my generation. But calling Danielle after not giving her the part in the first one, like by the time we did the second one, she and I were pretty good friends from just all the conventions and stuff. And I called and I had to eat shit and be like, listen, I think I fucked up here. I should have gone with you because, yeah. And all she said was, admit you were wrong. And I'm like,
damn, that's awesome.
And we have a very like brother-sister relationship like that. I'm like, I was wrong. And she's like, of course I'll do it. And
I was going to ask if she gave you the runaround about it.
She definitely gave me shit, but she, thankfully, most people embraced that change. But look, it does suck because it's supposed to be one movie, and the actress changing from the first to the second was obviously not something any of us had hoped would happen. But everyone is still friends with Tamara as well. Like, she was at the 10th anniversary screening. Like, it wasn't her fault, really. It was just a bad agent. Right. And he just thought that he at one point he said to one of the producers, you can't make Hatchet 2 without her. And I think that was the point where I was like, fucking watch me.
Yeah.
But it sucks in this business though. Sometimes the things that go wrong, like it's not anything to do with the actual people. Like in hindsight, I think even Tamara would agree now, she should have told him back down, stop.
Oh yeah.
But regardless, things always work out for a reason. But that's the story there.
It's good that you guys are like, you still get along, because I really like her performance in the first movie. I mean, it's too bad she couldn't.
I love her performance. I love her.
Yeah, she's really good. It's too bad she couldn't stick around. I mean, Danielle Harris obviously is great in the movies that she's in, but it would have been nice to have her, I think, in the other two movies, at least.
Especially because, like, when you think about what Danielle got thrown into, normally in a slasher movie, or really any horror movie, you get at least 30 minutes of being able to be normal before you have to turn it up to 11. Right. And she starts the movie with his hand around her neck, screaming, and is crying, and like she's, again, because the three films are one film. She never got to like work up to that for the audience. She had to just start there, which is really hard. But she's also just like, because she's been doing this so long, she just gets it. She knows how everything is done and how hard it's going to be. She never complains, which is also pretty amazing. 'Cause usually the people, no one likes it when I say this, but the people who bitch and moan and are cold or tired, it's the men. It's always, and it's the tough guys. They're the biggest bitches out of everybody. The women are tough as fucking shit on these movies. Like, you cannot rattle them. They're so strong. They're so awesome. And then you got to deal with the guys who are always, I'm cold, I'm hungry, I'm tired. I'm like, yeah.
I feel like that would be me.
It would be me too.
100%. Yeah, it'd totally be me.
I got to take a note. Adam Green confirms Kane Hodder was complaining about being cold.
What he goes through on these though, like the makeup. By the first and second, it was foam latex, but then by the third and fourth, we had graduated to silicone, which is so much better. It moves better, it fits better, but it was almost 50 pounds that he's wearing and having to run and pick people up and throw people and do like stunt work. And just, well, I mean, even just looking at me, there's obviously no way I could do that. I don't even know if I could run anymore, but I could never do what he does and coordinate and do all of it where he can only see out of one eye. It's just, I couldn't do what he does. Never.
Well, speaking of complaining about being cold, you also obviously worked on Frozen, which I just rewatched today, and I have to thank you. In this heat wave we were talking about, it made me feel cooler.
Oh, good.
Not gonna lie. I watched it twice because I was like, I think there's something to this here. Incredible film, but a very different tone in a million different ways from the Hatchet franchise and pretty much a lot of the other things that you've worked on. The range that you show is so impressive, and I always kind of cling to that with certain creators, where it's like, you know, when they can show a broader range, because like you said earlier, when you do the same thing over and over again, it does kind of get tiring and it loses its magic and kind of the viewer's appreciation, which is unfortunate. But being able to switch gears with Frozen, and you have such a smaller cast that you're working with. What was it like working with that, and which do you prefer? Maybe is like the chaos of a movie like Hatchet, or something more reserved where you have to focus on so much smaller details to get your point across. Which I love Frozen too. Like I haven't seen it since around its release, and rewatching it today, I was like, holy shit, I forgot how good this thing was.
Yeah, I think that's my best film.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the one I'm proudest of. Like
Wow.
and any filmmaker will say this, but any movie that you make, all you see is the problems with it. Like I, I don't know. Someday I would love to do one of those like watch alongs in a theater where you have a microphone, and the amount of shit I could throw at my own films. But because it's just, you're limited to the resources that you have. You go into everything with this vision and you know exactly how to execute it. And then they're like, oh, no, 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 no. You only get this many days and you can't have that and you can't do this and you got to get it done. But that's every film. But yeah, with Frozen, it was the concept had always stuck in my head since like I had gone skiing in high school. I used to go, there was like a class trip every Sunday night. They would bring us to this place called Wachusett. And Wachusett, at least back then, it was only open Friday through Sunday, unless it was like Christmas break. Like they weren't always open during the week because it was a smaller mountain in Massachusetts. They didn't have the business. And we would go on Sunday nights. And I was like, I'm just going to do one more run. And as I'm on the chair, it stopped, which ski lifts do that all the time because somebody either fell down getting on it or getting off of it. But they don't come on like a loudspeaker and explain it. You just wait. And I was only stuck for probably like 2 minutes. It wasn't that bad. But in those 2 minutes, because it's nighttime, it's Sunday night, and I'm looking and there's nobody on the chairs in front of me and nobody on the chairs behind me. And you just start to panic. Like, they know I'm here, right? Like, what the fuck? Like, what if I can't sit here for 5 days, and I'm looking, and like, also in Massachusetts, for anybody who's ever been skiing there, it's like ice most of the time. It's not even the type of snow like, at a real mountain out west or something like that, or even like Okemo or something like that. So I was really scared, and I never went skiing again after that, because I think I just started thinking more, and I'm like, why would you strap your legs to 2 boards and slide down the side of a mountain? Like, especially, again, I'm not the most athletic person. I'm like, I shouldn't be doing this. This is stupid. And I never went skiing again. But the idea always stuck with me. And when I wrote it, it was the challenge of making a whole movie with 3 people in a chair and no costume changes, no scenery changes. Like, could I sustain the dread and emotion for something like that? Like, it was going to be a challenge to shoot cinematically. It was going to be a challenge acting wise, directing, all of it. And my agent at the time, when he read it, he's like, no one's going to make this. It's 3 people sitting in a chair. And then like that is my biggest movie. It's much more successful than the Hatchet films, because it's more mainstream. Like Hatchet is such a niche thing. Like if you're into slashers and really gory practical effects, then it would be for you. But Frozen reaches a much wider. I think it was probably 2 or maybe at this point 3 Christmases ago. It was like the number 2 movie on Hulu for 2 weeks again. And the movie's 15 years old already, but it just kind of keeps going. There was a TV show in the UK, a sitcom that parodied it. Are You Going Out There? Is that what it's called? I don't know. I only saw the scene. I don't watch the show, but yeah, that one it was so hard to shoot, but such a good time, such great people, such a great crew. And then the wolves, like getting to work with real wolves like that, it was just like, because they'd start howling at the moon and you'd have to like cut until they stopped. But when you're out there at, I don't remember the exact elevation at this point, but we were very high up in Utah in the dead of winter on the side of a mountain. And there's just the sound of all these wolves howling, just unbelievable.
Yeah. Yeah, you nailed that movie. It does do what seems impossible to have three people sitting on a chair and still manage to be engaging and not boring. You know, it's you see those movies all the time where it's like an enclosed location or whatever, and it just gets boring to look at the same thing over and over again. I don't know what magic you sprinkled on that film, but it works.
It was, I think the actors did such a good job with the material. And I mean, they were really up there the whole time. Like they couldn't come down to go to the bathroom. They could, because chairlifts don't move backwards, or at least the ones at Snow Basin in Utah where we shot. And we were on an old lift. The lift that we shot on didn't even have safety bars. It was so old. And we had to add the safety bars to it. But I think that I think it was shooting each conversation differently. Like when they're in an argument, I'm doing what's called French overs, where I'm behind them, and it just gives the audience more of a feeling like you're observing something you're not supposed to be a part of. Like when things would get really tense, when I moved the camera, when I held it steady, not showing the gore. Because like if you ever can read the script, it says in the script that the camera stays on Lynch and Parker while Kevin Zeger's character Dan is getting eaten, and you just have to listen to it and hear him screaming. I think that's so much scarier than showing it. And at one point, the producers were like, "Look, this is going to be promoted as from the producer of Saw and the director of Hatchet. For foreign sales, we might need some gore. So can you just shoot him getting torn apart?" And I'm like, you're going to ruin the movie if you show it. Like it's immediately not scary when you see that. See, right. I think gore is funny. It's not scary to me. It's cool. It's fun. It's like, it makes you want to like cheer. And so we did shoot him getting torn apart, and like there's intestines everywhere. I think the deleted scene is on the Blu-ray, but to their credit, they didn't make me put it in the movie, which I really, really appreciate. But yeah, that movie, it also, I'm about to go through this again because the movie I'm in post on right now is another survival thriller. And survival thrillers, I just think they're so fun. When they work, they're great. And there's so many good ones. But when Frozen premiered at Sundance, which was incredible, my favorite movie from the horror selections that year was Tucker and Dale versus Evil. I thought that was the greatest thing that I'd ever seen.
Oh, fun.
Yeah,
Such a
fun great movie.
And every like bit of press I was doing, I'm like, but did you see Tucker and Dale versus Evil? Publicists like, talk about Frozen.
Your movie, focus.
But when I got to Park City, I was like, holy shit, we have a skiing thriller at Sundance, like a skiing town. Like this couldn't be better. And then I meet this other filmmaker, Rodrigo, and he's like, "Oh, you're the one with the people in a chair, right?" I'm like, "Yeah." Yeah. He goes, "Yeah, I have Ryan Reynolds in a box." I'm like, "Motherfucker."
He upped your chair with Ryan Reynolds. Damn it.
I know, like it would have been one thing to be like, I have a guy in a box for a whole movie, but when he's like Ryan Reynolds, I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah.
But they
That's
kept
a good
having
movie, though.
It's great.
Yeah, Buried is a good movie.
Do press together because we both had the contained thriller, like one location, but he definitely one up me in a box. I'm like, damn it.
Yeah, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Did when Disney released Frozen, did that cause problems for you?
I thought it was great because it was 4 years later. I think it might even, it's probably on my Instagram. And I'm walking through a movie theater and I saw the big standee for that. And like, I took a picture in front of it, like, what the fuck? But you can't own a word. And
right.
I'm sure there's other movies that were called Frozen before mine, but I think it helped us because the amount of parents who don't pay attention to what they're renting for their kids, and ours had already been out for 4 years, so ours was cheaper than that one. And there's reviews on, it might be Amazon, but like if you look, you can find people like, this is not a movie for kids, and this is not,
I love that.
And I don't know if they're kidding or not. My own manager,
no, they're not.
She heard her teenage daughters crying. They were having a sleepover. And she's like, "Oh no, what happened?" And she walks in and they were like, it was the scene where Parker is talking about how her dog's going to starve to death because no one knows she's there. And that was Emma Bell's audition piece for that. Like everyone who auditioned, that was the monologue I had them do. And she's like, "What are you guys watching?" She's like, that's Adam Green's movie. That's my you know him. They're like, "You know him?" She's like, "You've met him a million times. You don't give a shit." Like, yeah, he's the one who did it.
Yeah, I was telling Rob and Cass earlier before you got on, you almost traumatized my daughter. Thank God there's a code. She was asking for a code to watch Frozen on whatever your Frozen was streaming on. And I'm looking going, whoa, no. You're not watching this. So yeah, it does happen.
If you ever get the chance, we're pretty proud of all the special features and all the stuff we've done. But the Frozen Blu-ray, the special features on that are some of the best I've ever seen, especially for an independent movie. It's like a 90-minute or 90, it's broken up into like 5 parts, but it's not a 90-minute making of. And the guy who made it, his name is Adam Barnick. He just did such a good job that even when we watch it, we forget that we're the ones we're watching. Like but it's so detailed of every little thing and how it was made. I think it's almost as good as the movie if you're into that stuff, but really, really good. It just sucks that so few people even watch physical media anymore. And all that extra stuff, it's just kind of lost.
Yeah, I used to get, whenever I would get a new DVD and later Blu-ray, I would watch the movie and then almost immediately rewatch it with the commentary. And now I feel like half the Blu-rays I buy don't even have commentaries on them anymore because the people aren't putting them, they're just not selling enough.
Yeah, it's sad. I'm hoping it will make a comeback maybe now that there's like 4K, although I have this love-hate relationship with the whole 4K thing. Because if you have a huge 4K TV, yeah, you're going to really see the difference. But when I'm doing conventions and they're like, when is there going to be a 4K of Holliston or 4K of Hatchet? I'm like, how big's your TV? And they're like, 65 inches. I'm like, it doesn't matter. Like when it's an older movie and they rescan it and everything, but then sometimes that have you ever seen Flash Gordon in 4K?
There are some, that does not translate well.
Yeah, because back in the day, shooting on film, the celluloid hid a lot of that stuff they didn't want you to see. And now you go in and you clean it up and it's so high res in every pixel. So I'm not like against 4K. I just think most of the people who went and repurchased their collections but didn't bother to get like a massive TV, most of the time it's just not that different. But I like look at vinyl though. Like I've always collected vinyl since I was a little kid, just because I physically love records and holding them and the artwork and all that stuff. But vinyl has made such a comeback now, and maybe that will happen with movies again. I hope.
Yeah. Well, vinyl made such a comeback that I can barely afford to buy records anymore.
Right? They're so fucking expensive now.
Yeah. Sinners, they just announced both a soundtrack 2 vinyl set and a score 2 vinyl set for that movie, and I loved that movie. And I'm like, that's $90 just in records that I'm going to have to buy.
Dude, every Metallica box set they put out, because on the 30th anniversary of Kill 'Em All and Ride the Lightning, they always put out these incredible box sets. And like just last week, Load came out. That's not even like one of my favorite albums, but I have every single thing Metallica's ever done on vinyl. Like, gotta have this too. It was $300.
Yeah.
And for stuff there's like 230 tracks on it or something, because there's so much live stuff, which that's really the reason to get it. But I mean, if they were going to put out a remastered Injustice for All and not put Jason's bass back on the album, then what was the point? But still, regardless, I'll get all sidetracked with my metal shit. Sorry.
You mentioned the Ascent, and I wanted to give you kind of the opportunity because I've seen a bunch of places and I've heard you voice your displeasure of it being called a shark movie. I wanted to kind of give you a chance to set the, because obviously that's in the future. You can't go and spoil the movie. We know that. But just, what was it like making that? Can you tell the world it's not a shark movie? And you have Bill Moseley in it, which is, you are no stranger to working with horror icons. What's it like working with him?
Well, I had worked with Bill before on Holliston, and then I did a show called Scary Sleepover for a while, and like he was one of the people. Okay, if people haven't seen that, it's on YouTube, but just different celebrities would come here to the Ariscope studio and have a slumber party with me.
It's amazing. Everyone should go watch it. And I was going to hold this till the end, but you brought it up. We need more of those because they're great.
Yeah, I didn't know Bill Moseley had an episode. I got to go back and find that one.
His is one of the rare ones I did at my house because he's like, as I'd known him for a long time, he's like, everyone always says you're such a good cook. When are you going to have me over for dinner? So I was like, oh, when we do your scary sleepover, we'll do it at the house and I'll cook for you. But yeah, Bill is the greatest. I mean, he's been doing this for so long, and he, like, again, if you've ever met him, he's so not the characters he plays, and the other cast members of Ascent are all pretty young, and they didn't realize who he was. And after he was wrapped, they still had a few more days of shooting, and they were like, oh, I showed one of them that great scene in Texas Chainsaw 2 with the record vault with Chop Top and standing in the doorway and Leatherface comes running out. And they were like, wait, that was Bill? That was Bill? And I'm like, now watch Devil's Rejects. Now watch this. Now watch. And they were blown away that the same guy that they knew as this highly intelligent. I mean, he went to Yale. Like, he's super fucking smart. And he's just such a sweet guy, but then he plays these insane characters. But Ascent is not a shark movie. And like, again, something is always going to go wrong. And if I could have had my way, no one would even know what I'm making right now until there was a trailer and a release date, because I do get it how a lot of filmmakers want everyone to always know they're busy. I don't care. And if I had announced the things I was making over the last 5 years, none of them happened because the pandemic killed Killer Pizza, which was a huge budget TV series. The pandemic killed that. Then the strike killed the next thing I was on. Like, it's just, there's nothing you can do about it. But right before we started filming, word leaked, I think from like the international sales agent, and they called it a shark attack movie. And then immediately all the horror sites are like, Adam Green's shark. It's not a shark movie. It's a movie about a group of people who go on a hot air balloon ride and then get trapped in a hot air balloon, and they're continually going up. So as if Frozen wasn't hard enough to shoot with people 50 feet off the ground, now we're like thousands of feet in the air. And we shot it in Malta because that's where the story takes place. And I don't want to say too much else until people have seen it and then explain how we did it. But it's all practical. It's not on a sound stage. And just post is going to take a long time with this because there's so many safety cables and harnesses and things that had to get erased. So anyway, but yeah, it's not a shark attack movie. There's a shark in it for a second at one point, but it's not. And I was just saying to the producers, I'm like, why, how did you let this happen? And they're like, it doesn't matter. I'm like, it does, because if you think you're going to see a shark movie and then there's only a shark in it or sharks for a little bit, you're going to say that was a shitty shark movie, but it's not a shark movie. It's like, so, and how great would it have been if that had been a surprise too, when it happens, because like you wouldn't have known it was coming. Although everything gets so spoiled and ruined. That first screening at Sundance, when no one knew there were wolves in Frozen, and that scene where Kevin Zegers takes his hands down and there's a wolf right in his face, the screams from that audience, because nobody knew it was coming. But then even the trailer, they showed wolves in the trailer. They'll probably, this whole trailer for Ascent will be sharks with my luck. And then people will be like, where the fuck are the sharks? Wait, that was it?
You're not wrong though, because I try and avoid trailers the best that I can, and I did not see a trailer of Frozen before watching it. And when I seen the wolf, I was like, oh shit, you're 100% right.
You didn't know it was going there. And look, I think probably people like us would prefer to not have anything spoiled, but there's been so many tests done on trailers, and audiences prefer it, like for mainstream audiences, and they laugh harder at the stuff they've already seen 50 times in the commercial on TV. They're like, they wait for the parts that they know are coming. With Victor Crowley, we had originally planned to shoot alternate like jump scares and deaths just to make a trailer that's not what the movie is. So that every time you like, just as an example, there's a scene with a motion sensor light, and the light keeps turning on and turning off when they're in the shed, and then it turns on and Victor Crowley's already running full speed and just tackles the guy. We were going to shoot a bit where it's that shot, but he grabs from the inside of the shed. He grabs Katie, the girl, and we just didn't have time because Victor Crowley was shot in 11 days. That's all we had for that. The budget was $400,000. We had 11 days. How that movie's even fucking watchable, I don't know, but seriously, somehow we pulled it off. But the idea was make a trailer where you give away all these scares that aren't actually in the movie just to fake people out so they think they know what's coming, and then you do something different. Maybe someday I'll get to do that, but I think everyone should start doing that so that you still sell people on what the movie is, but you don't ruin it. And this is kind of random, but because the filmmakers rarely actually get a say in the poster or the trailer or how it's marketing, they always want to make you feel like you have a say. But the art form is they don't show you the thing until right before it's going to come out. And then it's too late that would have been great, but we're out of time. With Frozen, when they showed me the poster, I was like, wow, it's a very striking poster. They're like 50 miles in the air, but okay. Like I get it. It's a poster. It's just a couple things, guys. Could you put the chair on the correct side of the lift? They're like, nope. Okay. I'm like, all right, this one's a big one and it would take seconds to fix, but you added a belt to Shawn Ashmore when he's hanging. He's skiing. He wouldn't be wearing a belt. And if he had a belt, he could get down. So can you just remove the belt that you added in Photoshop? Nope, wouldn't do it. And there are reviews of that movie where people say, motherfucker didn't even try to use his belt. He didn't have a belt. Nobody has a belt over their snowsuit when they're going snowboarding or skiing. And I knew it. I could see it coming months ahead that if they leave that belt on the poster, people are going to see it and think, okay, well, he's got a belt because I saw it. So yeah, with that early word leaking of Ascent, they did fix it. They did do a press release like 3 days later where they said who the cast was. And they said, they took sharks out of it. But even as like a few days ago, because I did a different podcast for like talking about Yorkiethon and stuff, but in the description it said his shark attack movie is coming and it links to that original article. That. So I'm never going to get away from it.
That pissed me off, honestly, because you're talking about Talks from the Crypt, which was a phenomenal interview. Love what those guys do. And yeah, I seen that it was covered. I won't mention the site, but yeah, I was bitching about that a little before you got on. I'm like, he literally complained about it being called a shark movie in the interview that you're covering, man. What are we doing here?
Yeah, you learn early on to have a really thick skin with that. Like, first of all, not everyone's going to like everything you do, and that's fine. Like, it's not the end of the world. You can't care and get bent out of shape. If nobody is connecting with it, that would really suck because you just wasted a ton of money and a ton of time. But you just, I don't look most of the time, like even social media. I haven't looked at Twitter since last year. I don't think last year. And like normally I would only post if it was to promote something, but all the nonsense on there, it's such a waste of time. And I just don't care. Like with Instagram, I'm on there, but I don't look at what people post. I just go right to the reels because my algorithm is so dialed in to be all animal things like red pandas and funny cat things. And like, so I don't have to see what everyone thinks about it. I wish people would realize nobody fucking cares. They don't care what you think. And I don't know, but it's the shark thing. It definitely bothered me when it happened. Cause again, just looking to the future, there's going to be people who now think it's a shark movie and are disappointed. But hopefully by the time the thing is actually coming out, which will probably be like a year from now, when people see the trailer and the poster is going to be a giant shark.
Of all the sharks.
They did make They did make a fake one because they start selling international like before you even start shooting on something like this because it's a decent budget movie. And I saw the mock-up poster they made and there was a shark on it. And I was like, what did we learn here, guys? What did we learn? But it sucks. They don't always let the filmmaker be more involved with it. Although I still do agree with how they chose to make the trailer for Hatchet, because if they had shown the humor, I think it would have confused too many people. But even with that, there were early reviews where people were pissed that it was funny. Like, and that I just think is hilarious. Who hates laughing? Like, what's wrong with you if you're like, I fucking hate laughing, man? What the fuck? Like, okay, dude, sorry. Go watch Martyrs again, man. Like, I don't know what to tell you.
I can see if it's, we see, especially in the horror genre, when attempts at comedy are not funny, I'll get mad at that. But like that movie was, like I said, Rob said earlier, we just had an event, Murder by Numbers, where we put 3 franchises up against each other, and we chose Hatchet this year, and we rewatch all of them. We went on about like, dude, this is like fucking funny as shit, like really funny. So I don't.
But I mean, it all just depends on the person. Like what you and I might think is funny, somebody else just doesn't. It's hard. It's like not every joke is always going to land with everybody. But like especially in this genre, I say this all the time. Like the second you're writing and you write exterior Honey Island swamp night, if you think everyone is going to like what you're about to do, you're wrong. Like especially critics and stuff, like they live for this shit because this is where they can show how smart they are and how elevated they are and better than everyone else they are, because this is just a slasher movie. But to other people, the slasher movies are fun as fuck, and like it brings us enjoyment. And like I just wish everyone could go to a horror convention at one point in their life, even if they're not into it, just to see what we're really like. Like I've never felt safer, happier, more like I'm around my crowd of people than when I'm at a horror convention, because everybody is friendly. Everybody is into the same type of stuff. Like we might not all have the same favorites or whatever, but that's fine. And I said this on the Talks from the Crypt thing. I don't get the people who are like, they can only like one of something. Like, Freddy Krueger's the best. Jason sucked. Like, can't you like Freddy and Jason? Like, isn't that okay? Yeah. Like, I have the action figures of all of them. Like whatever they make, I'm gonna get. Like, I just love it. And being able to do horror conventions, I wish my friends who work in other genres could have that, because that's when you meet the people that really care about what you're doing, and they have like really important things to ask you or say to you about it. The classic I always go to, because it happens pretty often, is if someone was like, Digging Up the Marrow was the last movie I watched with my dad before he died, or something like that. Like what that means, like it. And then somebody wants to write a review and shit on you, or go on a podcast and say you're terrible. Go ahead, man. Like it doesn't, like I already got the best I could hope for, and that it connected with somebody and means something to somebody. And if it's not for you, it's not for you. And I'm not mad at you for it. It's just sort of, I don't know. And I think everyone who's going to be like, if that's their life, is being a critic of movies, they should even just a short film, but go make one first, and then start telling everybody how easy it is. Cause it's, of course, like you have that vision and you know how to do it, but that's just not the reality in most cases. So even studio movies, when a great studio movie comes out, it's kind of a miracle, because there's so many cooks in the kitchen standing over you, telling you how you're going to do it, or changing it and taking it away from you. So I remember saying, so James Gunn, I think one of the greatest filmmakers, one of the greatest people, one of the greatest storytellers ever. He was the first friend I had made in LA when I moved here, because my agent was like, you have the voice in your scripts. Like you definitely have a clear voice, but your structure is terrible. And you can learn structure in like 15 minutes, which is so true. And he just took a script from his desk and said, read this, and look how act 1 ends perfectly at page 30. Look where act 3 starts, basics that you learn in film school, but I just thought didn't apply to me. And the script he handed me was Gunn's first draft of Scooby-Doo. And it was so fucking funny. There was a joke about euthanizing Scrappy in that draft. Like it was so good. It's not the version that got made, obviously. It was basically the version, but different. But then I was like, can I meet this guy? And he was like, James Gunn? Yeah, sure. And like, I got to meet him, and then we just became friends. But my point is, when Guardians of the Galaxy was coming out, I was so scared because I'm like, nobody cares about the Guardians of the Galaxy. Like they're not Iron Man, they're not Superman, they're not like now also I should admit I don't care about superheroes at all.
Same.
I don't even go see the Marvel movies, and I'm not saying anything bad about them. I know people love them. They're really great. I just get really bored really fast because they're too long.
Yeah.
But when it's like, oh, James is doing a Marvel movie and it's Guardians of the Galaxy, I'm like, oh shit. Like Marvel's been on such a tear, but people like what they already know. That's why sequels do so well and remakes. They like what they'll all complain. Why don't we get more original stuff? Because you don't see it. That's why.
Yep.
And then Guardians is such a James Gunn movie. Like it's his voice through and through. It's funny. It's so good. And it just blew up. And that was, again, just so great to see. But that doesn't always happen. Usually they hire you because they like what you do, and then they tell you how to do it. And so whenever something comes out that does connect with people, you got to be happy it exists.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the last few questions that I have for you, Adam, Hatchet, we're talking about again, but you mentioned possibly getting a chance to do it in the future. You've said many times that you were, the way to put it perfectly, looking for a new home for the possibility of Hatchet 5. Is this something that you've shopped around and you're actively looking to make a Hatchet 5, or you're just, if it happens, it happens?
Yeah, have not actively been looking or even thinking about it.
Wow.
And it's funny because it's probably from that same Talks on the Crypt thing when we only talked about it briefly, but then I got tagged on Instagram and the title of it was Hatchet 5 in development hell. Like, no, it isn't. It's not in development hell. Like, and that's the other problem when you get quoted from podcasts. No one actually goes and listens to it. They just, whatever they read, that's what you said. So, yeah, it hasn't been anything I've like actively been trying to do. The most politically correct way of putting it is just, if we're going to do another one, it just has to be for a different home. I'm so grateful to Dark Sky for the 3 that we made there. I believe the rights of 1 are still with Lionsgate at the moment. And then Dark Sky has 2, 3, and 4, which not only did they put out, but they financed. Like they were like the studio behind it too. And I have so many friends that work there and stuff, but if we're gonna do it, if the original team that's done all of them is going to do it, it's going to have to be somewhere else at this point, which that's really all I can say about it. But it's just, I think when you're like 25, 30 years old and you're just so hungry and desperate for a chance, you don't really care about anything else. You just want to make the thing. And that's always been the case with the Hatchet movies. Like they're not big budget movies. No one's doing it for a payday. But at a certain point when, like, this is just common sense that even if you're not anywhere connected to the industry, you can get this. But if you make something and it doesn't make money, you don't make another one. Usually. Terrifier is a great example though, because they made 2, even though 1 didn't really do anything. So that there's already an exception to what I'm saying. But when there's 4 of something and 3 different action figures, and not things you order online, but you walk into Walmart or Target and there they are on the shelf, and kids coming to my door in Halloween masks of Victor Crowley. And the comic book series has been going 8 years, and just, the conventions, seeing all the merch walking around, the hoodies and t-shirts, and they're still trying to tell you it didn't make anything. But will you please do another one? Like, at a certain point, you got to just be like, I'm good. And this isn't even a fuck you, pay me thing. It's just treat us better and give us the resources we need, which is not a lot. It's not like I'm like, oh, if we do another one, it's got to be this big budget thing. No, just like something. But doing that last one for $400,000 in 11 days nearly killed me. It wasn't fun. It wasn't. It was just any movie. at the end, you're like, fuck, I had to compromise so much stuff. But to pull that one off, I mean, the plane crash alone, to do that as a oneer with the stunts and all that stuff, like on an 11-day shoot, was really, really hard. And yeah, just moving forward, it would have to be somewhere else. Now, people do call quite often, especially since Terrifier 2 made so much money.
Right.
But I don't want to do it just because, oh, now slashers are in. Like, I'm kind of proud that Victor Crowley was around when slashers weren't cool. But I mean, look, we'd all love to do it again. Kane, Danielle, like whenever we see each other talk, which is often, it's always like, oh man, that would be fun. And I definitely know what 5 would be. I had to know before I did 4, so I knew where I was going. But it's just not a priority. Like right now, everything's about Ascent. I got to get that done and out. And there's other stuff right now. I'm not sure which one I'm going to do next, but if we find the right situation, then yeah, we will do a Hatchet 5, but it's not because places don't want to make it. It's not in development hell. It's just not the priority.
And you're doing other stuff, which, like you said, priorities are the key to making things like this. But you said something interesting, what leads into the last question that I had. Victor Crowley, I mean, despite what, obviously, as you know, despite what, might be said about these movies not making money or whatever it is, Victor Crowley is a huge name in the horror genre. And it's been floating around in the gaming world. And you had worked on the writing for the Friday the 13th game, the Tommy tapes, which was awesome. I loved that game, loved Gunn and all of them.
You know what's funny is that's the only thing. I haven't looked in a couple of years now, so maybe it's changed. That's the only thing I've ever written that had 100% like positive feedback, at least that I saw. Yeah, because I'm like, I'm gonna really take a big swing here, and I'm gonna put Tommy Jarvis in every franchise. I'm gonna connect him to every one of them somehow, and either you get it or you don't. And thankfully, the people at Gunn Media who made the game loved it. Like they didn't even give me any notes. I wish I could have been involved in the recording of the performances for it because I just wrote it and that was it. But that was so fun to get to just kind of dip my toe into that world. And yeah, but there's definitely been like inquiries before, probably from some of the games you're thinking of, where they'll just sort of feel out like what would the rights be for this or that. But nothing's panned out yet. There was one point where it didn't get that close, but there was interest in a Halloween Horror Nights maze. And then it didn't happen. It was just like the one quick conversation, and then they went with something else. But then here in California, there's Not Scary Farm, not Sperry Farm, but for Halloween, it's Not Scary Farm, which is also awesome. I actually, for the last few years, I've really enjoyed that more than Universal because all the mazes are original. But they were starting, this is like 15 years ago now, they were starting to play with IP stuff. And they had a maze there each year called Voodoo. And the outside was like Bourbon Street, and then it was a swamp. And so there was a conversation that was like, we could just literally put Victor Crowley in here and stuff from Hatchet and do. And I was like, holy shit, that would be so cool. And again, just because as a fan, I want to see it. That was my favorite part of the action figures was like, I just wanted one. Like, I'm a fan of Victor Crowley. I think he's cool. I want an action figure. And so when it finally happened, it was like the coolest thing, but it hasn't yet. But yeah, as far as video games go, like, of course we would find a way to make that happen if it was the right thing. But every now and then you get a call from someone who's like, we're going to make our first game. Like, no, thanks. Like we'll be in your second one. How about that?
Right. And there's so many, there's been, Gunn who made Friday the 13th, which my favorite game by far. A lot of people have been throwing around because Kane Hodder's doing it. And, they're like, oh, it's Hatchet. And that's a big rumor. And we're partnered with Dead by Daylight to what I was saying before, where the Victor Crowley is such a big name. We see that name all the time pop up. And it's like everyone wants Hatchet as a chapter in that game. Is that something that you would be interested in if it presented itself in the proper fashion?
Yeah, 100%. It's just again, not to peel the curtain back too much, but I just know like the action figures that came out made a lot of money, and
Right.
who got that money? That's what I want to know.
You're 100% right. Yeah.
And so I probably shouldn't be saying any of this. There were licensing deals because usually people come to me with it.
Right.
And I was just saying no to everything because I don't want to make more money for these people who have nothing else to do with it. But like, and that's the other, like the shady side of this business. There's one movie in particular, and or two, I guess, where when the movie is done and you're like, wait, who is that? And you're seeing like producers listed, and you're like, I've never even met this person. Like they weren't even there. Who is this? But it all goes back to the, how the financing was put together. And then usually it's like, oh, but don't worry, they didn't take a fee or anything. They're just getting back end, but they're getting back end before the people who actually are in the movie and worked on the movie and made the movie and created the thing. And it's all just a big scam. And then like with international, good luck trying to prove how well it did. They're never going to tell you. So it's hard. And this is not something new.
Absolutely not.
Lord of the Rings, look at what happened with that. And Peter Jackson had to sue New Line for like, he ended up getting like $220 million or something as the reported settlement. Forrest Gump, they claim didn't make any money. Return of the Jedi didn't make any money. Like it's just a shitty fucking business. So yeah, I don't know. I would love, just as a fan though, if one of those places ever called and was like, we want to put Victor Crowley in this, I would do everything I could to make that happen just because I want to play it and I want to see it. So, but it's also too, though, you got to remember though, like Victor Crowley's not, I think if you're like a big horror fan, you know who he is, but I don't think the average, like if you show somebody a hockey mask, even if they're not a horror fan, they know that's Jason. They know Freddy's glove. They know Michael Myers. I don't think Victor Crowley's there, but it's also, this is a weird genre too, because the more time that goes by, the bigger things get. Like Evil Dead was not a thing when it came out. Even the second one, that was not like a household name or nothing. But then over time, because every day there's a new horror fan born, whatever that movie is that gets them into it, then they want to start seeing all of it. And they end up finding it. So so the shelf life definitely keeps growing, which is cool. But yeah, I would love to see that happen. And they know where to find me if they want to do it.
All right. Well, I mean, we can give them your information for sure. And that's the thing. It's like, as the fans, like it's great to see these big titles put into games that we play, and like, that's awesome and all. But to see the cult, because you're right, like Victor Crowley probably isn't at that, Jason atmosphere. Not that many are, but like to the real horror fans who know what these Hatchet movies, for example, did for the genre, those are the ones we want. Like those are the ones. But I get what you mean, and you're 100% right.
I just think even if you didn't know the movies, that it's a cool enough looking and violent enough character that people would enjoy it. But speaking of characters in video games, I lost my shit with excitement when Art the Clown was in Call of Duty. I was like, holy like, because that's a whole nother level. Like if Art the Clown had been in Dead by Daylight or another like horror thing, but Call of Duty, so cool. So cool.
Mm-hmm.
When the genre can cross over, it's a beautiful thing.
Yes, absolutely.
But Adam, we appreciate you so much, man. It has been an absolute blast. Let everybody know where they can find you. Tell them leave you alone if you don't want them to. Yorkiethon 9, everybody, again, all the links to that will be in the description everywhere this is, and you can get you some cool shit and help save dogs. I mean, that's one of the most beautiful things.
Yeah. Again, thank you guys for doing this, for mentioning Yorkiethon, and just even for talking about my stuff in general. I so appreciate it. But yeah, Yorkiethon 9, July 25th through 27th. It'll be free to watch on my website, ariescope.com, maybe on the Ariescope YouTube channel. I'm not sure about that right now, But if you go to ariescup.com, all the information will be there. If you listen to the Movie Crypt, you already know all about it, but it's going to be a really fun weekend. All kinds of horror celebrities and guests, a great script reading, which I wish I could announce. Might have something to do with Michael Myers, but I'm not supposed to say that. And Arwen Silent Auction, if you're into horror and metal, there's so much cool shit in there for you to bid on or buy, and all the money, every penny goes to Save Yorkie Rescue. And you can follow me on Instagram. I'm at Adam_FN_green. I haven't been posting much lately because I'm in post on Ascent and in pre-production on Yorkiethon, but I do pop on there from time to time.
I actually received a DM when we announced that we were going to be having you on. Mutual friend Damian Maffei was mentioning that, he does the reads for you guys, and he, I think 3 years, he said.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's done a few of them now, and he's great. Really good. Like,
he's all right.
My friend Dave Parker, who's a director himself, and he's actually editing Ascent with me. He's the one who always puts together those live table reads, and he does such a good job with them. Just because Joe and I have the entire weekend that we have to produce and plan, and so Dave always takes the script reading. And the cast that he's put together every year is always just awesome. So this one should not disappoint. It's on like Saturday evening is when we do that one. But like, I know Danielle and Scout are supposed to do a crossover podcast with us that weekend. And there'll be live commentaries to movies that everybody knows with people from whatever movie we're doing joining us. And it'll be a really good time. And again, it's all to save dogs. So like I always keep saying, like at this point when we're recording this, it's still a month away. If people could just skip one Starbucks coffee, one Dunkin' Donuts, just something, just take those $5 or $6, put it away and donate it that weekend. It makes such a difference to, it's, I'll be really quick with this. I'm sorry.
No, take your time.
The rescue, they always send us. This is why we like working with Save Yorkie Rescue, because it's smaller. And when we do Yorkiethon, and I think last year we ended up raising like $37,000 for them. They always send us a book that they make, and it's got the photos and the story of each dog that was saved that year. And we always share it online. They give it to us in a digital form as well. And we post it on the Movie Crypt Patreon, which you don't need to be a member to see it. But when you start turning all these pages and looking at these faces and reading their stories and knowing the $5 you gave or whatever you give, $100, $1,000, if you buy something amazing or whatever. Oh, there's something from Rob and Sherry Moon Zombie in this year's auction that's really fucking cool. I'm not sure if they're the ones who personally gave it or if it was the photographer who did it for them, but there was only 100 of them made, and we have one of them in the auction. But whatever it is, afterwards that you can actually see the actual animal that you helped save, because it's like a lot of the times it's just dogs that people gave up. They don't have somewhere to go. People move or they get sick of it. Like, I don't know how you give up a family member ever, but some of the stories, like for what kind of a monster beats up on a 6-pound dog? Like what has to be wrong with you? And our first year we did it, because they used to send us the before and after pictures, and Joe and I had to be like, we can't look at the before pictures anymore. Like, never send us that again. But this is always the example I give. There was a dog they had that they were calling Phantom. It was a Yorkshire Terrier, like a 6-pound little dog. And because the dog was barking, the owner, I guess, burned her face off against a wood burning stove. And so half of this dog's face was melted. But they were able to do the surgeries they couldn't save one of the eyes and I think one of the ear canals. The dog looks very Frankenstein-esque. But Phantom is now living in a home with 3 kids, the happiest dog you've ever seen. And that's what we do with this every year. So we're just so grateful to people who watch. And if you don't have $1 that you can give, even just sharing the link and telling other people about it, even like this podcast, if it leads to one person making a donation that weekend, then it was worth me talking your ears off for 2 hours. But like, this is the thing I love the most about the genre. You just get to meet other people who love it and are into it. And even if you don't all love the same things, it's just, you always feel like they're friends that you grew up with that you hadn't met before.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, thank you for doing what you do with this, man. I always say my thing with dogs are you could treat them so horribly, and it's sickening that people do. But even if people that do, someone could break into your house immediately after, and their first thought will be to defend you. They just love, that's all they know.
That's all they know.
Yeah. And it's a beautiful thing to be able to give that back to them.
Yeah, I think that's the best thing to come of this career, is to be able to have a way to make even a small difference in something like that is huge. And I hope anybody who finds himself in, whether it's the position I'm in, a much better position or lesser position, whatever it might be. But I just think it's kept me grounded and happy to have something greater than my own wants or needs to work for. And I think everybody should at least try it once, because it's the greatest thing in the world to know that you helped.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have one last thing to tell you, because Damian will probably kick my ass if I didn't. He wants badly to be in a Hatchet movie. So if that ever does go to fruition in the future, I mean, to save me an ass kicking, maybe give him a thought.
It's that's one of the best things about that series are the people that I wind up hearing from.
Yeah.
Which I don't want to seem like I'm name dropping or anything, so I won't say, but like sometimes it's somebody like you would like, I can't get over it that like they're such a fan of it. I'm like, you? And they're like, dude, any way I can die in that movie.
Brian Quinn.
Yeah, that one was great. And at the time, because we thought we were going to be doing season 3 of Holliston, and I had written a part for Murr in that. And but then in getting to know those guys and what a horror fan Q is, I was like, oh man, and like again, and the movie was secret, so he couldn't even tell anybody.
That's gotta suck.
He was the best, my favorite part of making that movie, because all the rest of us were like in the trenches and just like, fuck, how are we going to do this in 11 days? Like, this is impossible. But for him, it was like his first movie, and he's on a Hatchet set, and there's Kane in the costume and the whole, like, he was just so happy that it made all the rest of us happy. I just think it's important to have someone on each set who is seeing things that way, because it makes everybody remember like, oh yeah, that's right. We're so like, even though this is not what we signed up for, this is awesome that we get to do this. It's something I say a lot on all my sets. Like when I'm saying good morning to the crew, I'll always be like, can you believe we're getting to do this? Can you believe what we get to do? Like,
yeah,
because every one of them, you're like, well, this might be the last one I ever get to make. Like, you never know what's going to happen. So you just got to enjoy it and enjoy the people you're with, and just be grateful. Be grateful that you're getting to say the word action and that people are going to do something. Like, so many people dream of it, and it's so unfair that it can't happen for everybody who wants to do it. And I never take that for granted. And I will keep trying as hard as I can. And hopefully there's people that it connects with.
Yeah. And it does, man. It does. And if the Damian thing ever happens with a Hatchet movie, make sure you put a mask on him.
Yeah, for some reason, every time he's in a movie, they put up. He's a handsome man, and everybody wants to cover his face for some reason. So you got to do that.
That's hilarious.
I might get my ass kicked after all. All right, Adam, thank you so much, man. This has been an absolute blast. We love everything you do. Everyone needs to go support everything you're doing, because it's awesome.
Thank you. And thank you guys again so much for taking the time to talk to me and for talking about my stuff on your show.
Yeah, thank you for your time. You're a lot busier than I am. Trust me. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right. I'll see you guys later.
Have a good night.
Bye.
All right. I hope everybody enjoyed that. That was a great conversation. That was a lengthy conversation. There will be clips of it. Usually when we have an interview, the attention span of the average viewer, especially on YouTube, is not very long. Think like a bedroom slipper or something like that.
Yeah.
About the attention span of a bedroom slipper. So this will be clipped up, and we'll take different talking points and have shorter versions pulled from the interview. but we appreciate everybody who listened it through. If you're a horror fan, it's hard to turn this off.
It is. And the funny thing is, I mean, we talked before, is we talked to him for so long, and I feel like we could have probably talked another 2 hours.
Easy.
He was, it was just a great conversation, a lot of fun, a really fun guy, really, really funny, really nice. Really enjoyed the conversation with him.
Yeah, so thank you everybody for listening to that. Check out the YouTube. It'll be obviously the same interview, but it clipped out and some thoughts on it and things like that. So the YouTube's a good place for that kind of stuff. So make sure you subscribe to us on that. Follow us on Twitter and all those other things, just at Slasher Radio. Patreon.com/Slasher Radio. Tier starting as low as $3 a month, 1 week free trial, all those things. And I'm at Mikey's Dead. Rob, what about you?
You can find me online at Radio Rob123, and you can listen to the other show that I do, the Nick fucking Woo Cagecast, wherever you are listening to Slasher Radio.
Hell of a deal. And you can find Cass at Makeup Ex Mistress on Twitter.
Or drunk walking around some beach somewhere right now.
Yeah, you can find Cass drunk as shit talking about itches on some beach somewhere in Canada. Unbelievable.
I'm Canadian. Sorry. Miss Scusi.
All right, guys. Patreon pick next week. This is a great time to get on the Patreon. Make sure you do it. Good night from Slasher Radio.
All the best with Slasher Radio podcast.